Okay.
From the city of Ansonia, Sheila O'Malley.
Present.
Okay. From the town of Beacon Falls, First Selectman Smith.
Here.
From the town of Bethlehem, First Selectman Lenisard.
Here.
From the city of Bristol, Mayor Ellen Zappo-Sasso.
Here.
We have nobody from the town of Cheshire today. From the city of Derby, we have Drew Backlick.
Present.
This town of Middlebury, First Selectman Ed St. John. Perhaps he'll join us a little bit later.
No, Ed indicated yesterday he wouldn't be able to attend during the executive.
Oh, okay, all right. Let's see, from the borough of Naugatuck, we have Jim McGrath as a proxy for this meeting. Jim, are you here?
He is.
He's here, I saw him.
All righty. From the town of Oxford, we have Kristen Rosa as a proxy today.
I'm here. Hello, everyone.
Thank you. From the town of Plymouth, Mayor Merchant was unsure he'd be able to join us. From the town of Prospect, Mayor Chatfield. Mayor Chatfield, are you here?
Yeah, he's here.
I saw Bob earlier.
Okay. From the town of Seymour, First Selectwoman Anne Marie Dragonis. Okay, she is not with us. From the city of Shelton, Mayor Mark Loretti is unable to attend today. From the town of Southbury, First Selectman Jeff Manville is going to be at a funeral today. From the town of Thomaston, First Selectman Ed Moen.
Here.
And I do know that I've seen from the city of Waterbury, Mayor O'Leary, I know is here.
Thank you.
We have nobody today from the town of Waterbury. From the town of Woolcott, Mayor Tom Dunn.
Here.
Thank you. And from the town of Woodbury, First Selectman Barbara Perkinson is unable to join us today. I understand we are also going to be joined by someone from Demis Region 5. May or may not be John Field. I don't know.
I'm here.
John is with us.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Lauren. Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum present for both the MPO and the COG. I know we have public comment first, but as we had discussed at the executive board meeting, the first order of business after public comment would be a motion to go out of order, take up item 9F, Kinneytown Dam.
Sounds like a good plan. Okay, anyone here from the public who wishes to address our board? I see that we have Samantha Laban from Eversource here. Samantha?
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, everyone. Samantha Laban from Eversource. I'm here to give an update that many of you probably already received from your community relations specialist regarding the shutoff, the disconnect moratorium that ends on September 15th. So this is in accordance with state regulations. We're really doing a lot of outreach to all of our customers who have not made payments during this pandemic. We've done outreach, phone calls, and we're also asking the towns to assist in sharing the message that Eversource is here to help the residents, the customers. If they're having difficulty paying their bills, to call Eversource customer service, and we will work out something that works for that specific situation. We want to avoid disconnects. We're here to help. Also, the Department of Health also has Unite CT that is also has programs available for people who are having difficulty paying their utility bills. So you should have received an email or will receive an email with a flyer with the various Eversource programs. A press release went out as well with more information. Eversource.com/billhelp is where all of the information is held as well. If you want to share that on your website or social media, just continue to get the message out there to avoid any potential disconnects to your residents, and also take a load off of you if you're starting to get calls. I think the disconnects the programs available end September 30th. So there is a short window that people can sign up to help avoid these disconnects. Other than that, I also want to share, today is actually my last day with Eversource. I'm leaving the company for positions outside of the company to work fully remotely and spend more time with my 9-month-old son. So I just want to say it's been a pleasure working with you all. Hetty Ayers will be taking over until they hire someone new. But, just wanted to put that out there and say thank you, everyone, for a wonderful few years. And if you need anything, the team is still here to help. Thank you.
Well, that's a surprise, Samantha Laban. Congratulations. And I'm sure that your 9-month-old and your husband will be happy to have you at home.
Thank
And we wish you the best of luck. And we're here if you need us for anything. And
Thank you very much, Mayor.
thanks for your service to Eversource.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
could we have a moment of silence for tomorrow's memory tomorrow, what happened 20 years ago?
We sure can, Mayor Bob. We'll ask everyone now. I was going to do that a little later. You beat me to the punch. Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry, if you want to have it later, it's okay.
No, that's okay. We'll do, I was going to do it toward the end, but let's do it now. Let's do it now. It should be on the top of the agenda. You're right. So we'll ask everyone for a moment of silence and remembrance of all those souls who lost their lives during the 9/11 terrorist attacks in 2001, and for all their surviving family members. Okay, thank you, everyone. And thanks, Mayor Bob. It's so hard for me to get my head around the fact that it's been 20 years. It's just amazing. For any of you that are interested, there is a beautiful mass scheduled for tomorrow morning at the Basilica of the Immaculate, downtown Waterbury. Father James Sullivan put it together, and the mass is going to start at 8:46, which is the time that the first plane went into the World Trade Center. So you're all welcome to attend if you'd like. I think it'll be a beautiful mass. Okay. All right. So
Mayor, in addition, at the Bethlehem Fair tomorrow morning at 8:46, the American Legion is going to be putting on a program to commemorate the 20th anniversary of that terrorist attack as well.
okay, Lenny, we appreciate that. By the way, Lenny, I'm going to make an appearance at the Bethlehem Fair this weekend. I haven't been there in a long time. I'm looking forward to a little corn on the cob, to be honest with you. But thank you for that.
If I knew you were coming, I'd have given you a ticket, but I can still take care of that.
That's okay. It goes to a good cause. All right, everybody okay? I'm ready to move on? Okay, so Rick, you want to go to item agenda 9, is that correct?
Yeah, the appropriate action would be a motion to go out of order and take up item 9F, Kennytown Dam.
So
No move,
Gedlow.
Chadfield.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, thank you. Okay,
Okay, Mayor, just first, Aaron will go through the update for the full board, and then we'll go to executive session for Attorney Shems, who I confirmed with him this morning, he wants to do it in executive session. He prefer that.
that's fine. And Aaron, if you don't mind, we do have several new members of the COG since we undertook the Kennytown Dam Initiative. So you might want to just take a moment and give a little background so that everyone will be familiar with what we're doing here. Okay.
Sure. So Kennytown Dam is a hydroelectric facility in Seymour. There's 2 hydroelectric generating units, one in Seymour and one in Ansonia. It came to light a few years ago now that Fish Passage, which was supposed to be part of the owner's license exemption, was not operating properly at all. So that fish that were supposed to be allowed to pass upstream of the dam have not been able to in several years. So, we've been working with the coalition of partners, including Save the Sound and the Naugatuck River Revival group, to try to fix that. So there's a FERC docket that's opened. Fish and Wildlife, DEP, and FERC are all sort of working and submitting items to that docket. And I'll just give an update now of what's happened since our last meeting on June 11th. So Save the Sound has made 2 recent submissions to the FERC docket. The first documented failure of the 2021 fish passage season, and Hydroland, who is the dam owners, continued non-compliance with FERC orders. The second,
Aaron, I'm sorry, I want to interrupt you 1 second. Can you explain to everyone what FERC is, please?
so FERC is the federal
Energy Regulatory Commission.
energy. Yeah, there you go. All these acronyms. So yeah, they since it's a hydroelectric facility, they are the regulating authority over the dam. Fish and Wildlife has purview over the fish passage. So they make recommendations to FERC about the fish passage, and FERC would make orders to the dam owner. So the second submission that Save the Sound made was an analysis focusing on the historic flows of the river and fish passage data. And that found that even when the dam is operating as intended, there are only very narrow flow conditions when fish can pass the dam. And during some seasons like this past season, those conditions are never met. So, it's sort of a basic failure of the system itself. On August 20th, coalition partners, NVCOG CEOs and staff from our federal delegation in DEEP met with Fish and Wildlife Service staff to discuss the status of their report, documenting findings of a field inspection that they made on May 7th. Fish and Wildlife reported that they were not able to take all the measurements they needed and would be submitting an interim report with the follow-up report later this fall. They also reported that preliminary work showed that parts of the facility may not have been constructed as designed. So Fish and Wildlife submitted that interim report on September 2nd, and that laid out their plans for an additional field visit later this month with a report of findings and recommendations planned for the end of October. The letter did mention several preliminary concerns about the fish ladder in the letter, and it also highlighted the failure of fish passage and Hydroland's non-compliance with FERC orders. FERC ordered Hydroland to submit a status update that was actually due on August 1st, but Hydroland had not submitted. And that deadline is actually set for today, and we have not seen anything yet. So I guess the takeaways from all this are that the 2021 fish passage season was a total failure, along with several previous years. Hydroland has taken no action to remedy the situation despite FERC orders to take short-term action. And it seems like FERC's really not happy about this, and it looks like they're poised to act. And they're likely going to follow Fish and Wildlife recommendations when they're issued. However, Fish and Wildlife Service has indicated that they're constrained by the original license exemption, and that their recommendations will likely be limited to enforcing compliance with the existing exemption and the fish ladder design and operation plan that was approved in the 1990s. We don't think that this will solve the underlying problem. And that leads us to the legal strategy that Attorney Shems is going to discuss with you here.
Okay, any questions for Aaron from anyone before we go into executive session? Okay, having said that then, can we have a motion to go into executive session?
I'll do that and invite the appropriate personnel.
Have a second?
Yes.
Okay.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, Rick, you going to let us know who the appropriate personnel are? For those of you that do not get invited to executive session, for whatever reason, I don't believe we'll be in executive session for more than, say, 10 to 15 minutes. So if you want to hang around and be a part of the meeting after that, we'll be back.
Right. So anybody who's not in executive session can remain where they are in the online meeting. Richard will direct all of the people who are going into the executive session into a breakout room. The staff that will be present will be myself, Aaron Boudris, our environmental planner, our attorney, Ron Shems. And I believe, Ron, you're by yourself today?
I have one of my law partners, Nick Lowe, and my law clerk, a law student who's working with us for the semester, Justin Zaffron.
Okay, we have their names, so we can include those on the record as being included in the session.
So the low man Janie being on this?
I don't think we can.
Okay.
I would like to have delegation involved in all of this, but I think when we're discussing legal strategy, we give up our privilege if we bring people in who are not part of
Okay.
it. Okay. So, but glad to have Lou here. So, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to confirm you had a motion and a second to go into executive session. It is now 10:19 a.m. And Richard will make that happen.
So
Okay, we should all be back. Everybody should have been moved back automatically.
I didn't have to click anything.
No, I didn't either. Either Richard or Aaron did it. I'm not sure who. So, okay, so Mayor, now you can make a motion to go back from executive session at 10:10 a.m.
And so moved on the motion.
Mayor O'Leary, you're muted.
You want a motion to go back in a regular session, Rick?
Correct.
Mayor Dunn?
So moved, yep.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're back in regular session.
So moved on the motion. I'll make when it shows it.
Yeah. Richard or Aaron, one of you sharing it? Thank you.
We don't have anything up here yet.
Yeah, let's give it a second. We need the item 9F. There we go.
There you go.
Okay, so that's the motion recommended by the executive committee yesterday, and that we're asking you to endorse today to adopt.
Let me just read it, Rick, for those that are going to listen in on the meeting later. So we have a recommended motion to authorize legal counsel to finalize preparation and take legal action consistent with the attorney-client discussion held in executive session. Rick Dunn is hereby designated as the primary point of contact between our attorney and the NVCOG. Mayor Dunn?
So moved, yep.
Second, Ed Moan.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Motion passes. Okay. Good people. Now we can go back to item agenda number 2, NVCOG administrative items. And we'll start with the approval of the minutes from the June 11th,
Thank you very much.
2021 NVCOG and CNVMPO meeting. We have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Okay.
Ed Moan.
Second, done.
We're done. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next on the agenda is item agenda 2B, draft year-end financial report. Michael? Michael?
Yes, sir. Just sharing my screen. Technical difficulties.
Okay.
There we go. Okay. Thank you. So this is the year-end report for 2021.
Nope, there it is.
Okay. For 2021, it's unaudited. Where we left off last, I was projecting about a $60,000 deficit. Since then, it has increased to $134,000. The main causes of this are timing issues, particularly how COVID impacted us. On one hand, we had an EDA grant which wasn't available to the second half of the year. We also had to spend money on IT items, particularly security, software, some hardware, and that also includes the CIO. In addition to that, we had about $42,000 of the Kidneytown Dam expenses that were unexpected, but we decided to pay out of our general fund. Moreover, because we weren't fully staffed in the year, because the budget, we had a more robust staff than what ended up becoming, because we didn't hire till the last quarter. But as a result, we underperformed in a few grants, and we didn't have the proper cost recovery through the indirect rate to cover a number of the indirect expenses.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Michael? Do we all understand why we're in a deficit? I think he's explained it, but we had a little bit more detail in the executive or committee meeting yesterday. But We understand why we're in a deficit. It's definitely connected to COVID. And we're not concerned about it, for all of you to know and understand that we feel that we're in actually pretty good shape despite the deficit.
I just had two comments before I take questions, Mr. Mayor. So we did not receive any COVID recovery money from the state, which we were anticipating last year. So that was a big problem. The COGS didn't get any money, but we're expected to do a lot of the work. The other item had to do with our as Michael said, the staffing issue. And we went through that yesterday as to why that underperforms. But the good news, I think, is that we have a better look at the current year, because some of this was a timing issue. We adopted a current year's budget, not the one we just reviewed, but a current year's budget with roughly an $80,000 anticipated deficit due to COVID. That number we think is going to shrink way down in the current year because the timing ended up in the prior year for some of those numbers. And Michael is also now watching the budget like a hawk to make sure that we don't have any indirect expenses that are unanticipated or that we can go without for next year, for the current year. So I think we're going to see the savings there that we were already anticipating as deficit. So net result over 2 years, we were anticipating we had planned for the overrun for Kinneytown Dam, and we did not get the other money, but we're achieving savings in the current year. I think over the 2 years, it's probably going to work out to be about a $60,000, maybe a $70,000 plus whatever additional Kinneytown costs we have. So that's what it's going to work out to be. I think the target comes back to what we were projecting over 2 years.
It says he wants us to sign off on it, but I'm thinking that has to sign off by Stacy.
Any other questions?
I do.
Thank you, Bob. Go ahead.
Is there a fund balance?
Yeah, so the projected fund balance for the end of 2021 is going to be $618,000.
Okay, thank you.
That's after the projected deficit.
Yes, sir.
Any other good questions? We need a motion to accept the year-end financial report, Rick?
You can. It's not the final report. It's not audited yet, but if you want to move to accept it from the finance.
So
director.
moved, Chatfield. I'll make that motion.
Second, Ed Moan.
Ed Moan.
Sure.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Motion passes. Everyone, direct your attention now to item agenda 2C as in Charlie, approval of agency financial reports and summaries for the period ending 7/31/21. Michael?
Thank you. So this is for the month ending July 31st. We're 8.3% through the year with a bottom line of positive 210,000. This is a little bit more cut and dry. We have a surplus right now because of how we collected dues up front. Municipal dues, brownfields dues, so that artificially inflates it. But that does come down over the time. Other than that, there's nothing really significant to mention. You know, typically in the first quarter, we're still waiting on the RSG approval from OPM to send them an invoice. They've approved our spending plan, awarded the funds, but there's usually a 3 or 4 month time delay until we could invoice them out and get the first quarter and second quarter funds in. So those usually come together October, November timeframe. Other than that, though, as Rick said, we're still projected to spend a bit of a deficit this current year. However, we are working diligently and aggressively to minimize any negative impact.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Michael? Okay, can we have a motion to accept the financial report?
So moved, Ed Moan.
Second, done.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and we're now very excited to get Rick Dunn's brief director's report.
I'm going to do this as quickly as I can, Mayor, I promise. So the first thing is Envision 22. I just want to give you all a heads up. We're going to be doing some fundraising for this soon. The save the date you should have gotten, you'll be getting more. It's March 30th, 2022. This is our every 5 years, we try to put together a planning conference, a region-wide planning conference that we invite people from all over the state to participate in. So we're putting together the agenda as we speak. But it'll be at the Palace Theater on the 30th of March. And again, just in case you get any questions, we will be doing some fundraising for this. So we'll be reaching out to the usual suspects, if you will. On executive board updates, the things that we already covered were the budget and the Kinneytown Dam issue. The American Rescue Plan discussion is going to be on the agenda. The only other thing I need to talk about here is a COVID protocol. We were waiting, as we discussed yesterday, for the president's order to see how it might affect us. So we are although we have contracts with the federal government as an agency, we're not considered a contractor. And grants are exempt from the order. So the source of our contracts are in fact grants. So we don't believe the order applies to us, but we're going to continue to have a conversation with the executive board and the full board as we move forward about what should be appropriate policy for the agency, whether we need to require vaccines.
Hey, you got a minute? Thanks.
We have a high level of vaccination amongst the staff right now. So that's not really a problem. The problem is with visitors. So I don't know if there are any questions about that item, but I'm happy to move on to the very last thing. So hearing none, I'll do so. As you all should know, we had some staff turnover, some folks who departed and some people who have been newly hired with the agency. So I just wanted to take 2 seconds to let you know. So Leslie Barrowin has left us, as has Gabe Filer. Gabe's last day is, I think, technically today, but I think yesterday was his last day at the office. He's found new employment. We're very, very pleased for him. On the staff, since we met last, we've offered a full-time position to someone who's worked for us previously, but also comes immediately from, we stole her from the mayor's office in Waterbury, Desiree Blanchard. Desiree will be handling public involvement and diversity, equity, and inclusion activities for the agency. Desiree's in the conference room. I'm not sure if she's on camera or not. The other person that we've newly hired is Kevin Ellis. Kevin will be one of our regional transportation engineers, and will work in the transportation planning process under the direction of Josh LaCar, and then obviously all under Mark and Karen. So I just wanted to take that second to introduce Kevin, who's waving on the screen, and then Desiree, who is present in the room. That's it, Mr. Mayor, I'm good.
Okay, Rick. Do we need to do a motion to accept the director's report?
Not usually, we don't.
That's great. So let's jump right into item agenda 3, authorization for executive director to execute an MOU with the Western Connecticut Council of Governments and the Northwest Hills Council of Governments regarding functions and responsibilities for DEMIS Region 5 under 2021 Homeland Security grant programs. Rick?
Yes, this is the REPT grant we executed every year or 2 years, I can't recall. Just as a reminder to all of you, there are some MOUs and MOAs that the towns owe to the region, the Homeland Security region for this. They are looking for them. We're happy to update you separately if your town is behind in getting these in place. But the motion's relatively simple to authorize me to execute the documents.
So moved, Chatfield.
Seconded, Edmond.
Great. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
I'll have Joanna Rogowski reach out to any of you individually if your towns have not executed their orders.
Okay, very cool. Item agenda 4, authorization for Executive Director Rick Dunn to execute agreements for previously approved program applications.
This is what we refer to as the blanket resolution. We do this each year. This authorizes me to enter into agreements and contracts for grants and agreements that you have already approved. So in other words, you authorize us to apply for a grant. This authorizes me to accept the grant without having to come back to the board for additional actions. And it authorizes me to execute the documents with the state or federal government. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but we do this annually in September.
So moved, Edmond.
Do we have a second?
Second. Done.
Thank you, Mayor Dunn. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, awesome. Okay, item agenda 5, my favorite subject, ARPA funding and discussion. Rick?
Yes, so we discussed this briefly yesterday, and I'm going to look to Mark for some of it. The original agenda item had to do with a memo that COG sent to their members back earlier in the summer, offering to perform the compliance, provide guidance, and do some of the financial reviews so that the towns who didn't have sufficient staff to handle these types of grants could remain in compliance without any problem. We didn't get a big response. The largest response we got were from the smallest towns. In the offer that we had put together, 0.25% of the county distribution, there's not enough money in that offer just for a couple of small towns to participate. So what we discussed yesterday at the executive board meeting was that if a town is interested in having the COG do their compliance, their reviews, and not pick your projects, that's up to you guys, but just tell you whether your projects are eligible, whether you have any difficulty, we can help you with your public outreach process, and then we'll do your financial reviews of your internal operations to make sure that everything's on the straight and narrow for audit. So what we did yesterday was leave it that we would negotiate individually with individual towns if they require the service, and the cost for you is reimbursable from your ARPA funds. So I'm gonna sort of drop that one. If anyone wants to get a hold of us, they can reach out to John DeCarlo and we can put together a proposal for you. The other thing that popped up since we published the agenda was the EDA funding. And EDA has indicated they want applications for ARPA EDA funding, which is $3 billion nationwide, to be handled through the economic development districts. So obviously we don't control the district, although you all comprise the district. It's administered out of Shelton Economic Development Corp. So, but we primarily staff the compliance work and the planning work that goes along with this. So what we're doing is we're working on the Build Back Better program. We're working on a proposal that Mark has to submit to DECD today and outline for their review. And what we're looking at is basically what I would call a virtual institute to pull together everything from your tech high schools, your magnet schools, through our community colleges, and put together a new certificate program to train people up in the precision and advanced manufacturing sectors, other high technology sectors. So that's the basics of the proposal. The coalition partners on this, we imagine being everyone from the new high-tech manufacturers group that's come together in Connecticut to the small manufacturers group that's been in existence for quite a while, the community colleges, the chambers, as well as the workforce investment boards, who we would coordinate with, and the schools. So there's a phase 1 application, phase 1 activity. We have to get in a full application by October 18, I believe is the deadline. 19th. So we'll submit that by the 19th if we move forward and get agreement with DECD that they will pay the entire non-federal share of this. The first grant, phase 1, is the planning activity to actually put together the plan I just sort of outlined for you. And then phase two, if we're funded, could be a grant it could be up to 100 million to actually put it together and put the pieces in place with the universities and the high schools. We're looking in the 50 to $75 million range, I think is what we're targeting. We did receive outreach from MetroCog, Greater Bridgeport, and WestCog as to whether we wanted to partner with them on a different type of freestanding institute based in Stamford. And the general discussion in our EDD group was that we wanted to focus on our own precision manufacturing corridor, our own schools and education facilities, and not have to send our people who live in our areas, who are the disadvantaged folks who need this training, who need these jobs. One of the other things we're going to look at in here is providing childcare, because that's the biggest obstacle to people getting the complete education and their ability to take a job. So that will also be part of what we look at. And then we'll also focus on the high priority for the federal government and the state, which is the equity piece, and making sure that we're not just practicing diversity, but that there's equitable availability of these programs throughout our region. So happy, I'm sorry that took so long, but I needed to get that in so you guys knew where the EDD was going with this. Happy to answer any questions.
Does this have to be put on the motion to put this on the agenda, because you said it just came up yesterday?
Yeah, it's not our item. The Economic Development District is going to be the one submitting. So it would be Paul Grimmer will organize this at EDD, but Mark and his staff will be doing most of the work. Sheila might want to speak to that. She's the chair of the Economic Development District.
Through the chair, Mr. Mayor, Rick, I know you said you sent out some information on helping towns and all that, and that probably was, we probably didn't receive the money yet, or even know what the heck we could use it for. So in the meantime, we have utilized that money to get items that were clearly in the ARP funding. But we would definitely be interested. I know we did reach out. I'm looking at the emails now, our finance officer. So we might want to start that up again. We would definitely look for your assistance or somebody there with the expertise of reporting this to make sure that, you know, when we do get yelled at for doing it wrong, we could say it was you guys that helped us. No, we're definitely interested in the reporting part of it.
So
Prospect.
Yeah, I'll have John DiCarlo reach out to all of you to reaffirm who might be interested. We did get initial response from I think 4 towns, and then 6 had expressed interest. So yeah, we'll go back over that ground. It's just the cost proposal we'll have to put together. We're not in a position to fund it out of COG resources, obviously, as you know from our finance report.
No, we'd be willing to utilize some of our funds for you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, any other questions about ARPA? So just to give you a 411 of what we're doing in Waterbury, and I'll keep it brief, but you know, I had some really bad experiences with misappropriation of federal money when I first became police chief in 2004, and I had to testify in front of the DOJ in Washington, D.C. twice because the former mayor, Phil Giordano, took federal money that was targeted to go into the Waterbury Police Department accounts and put them into the general budget. I went and testified. I explained everything. You know, I explained how he, at the time, was under indictment. He was incarcerated. He was this, he was that. And they said, yeah, we're sorry about that, but you're debarred for 3 years and you have to pay the money back. So we ended up not having to pay the money back thanks to our congressional delegation at the time. But we were debarred for 3 years. And by the way, folks, that was not a lot of money. I mean, not a lot of money compared to what the ARPA funding is. So I'm really oversensitive about all that because the city of Waterbury cannot afford another perception issue after everything we've been through. And so We are actually in a position where we've hired what I call a super project manager position, which will be announced in the upcoming days. But that person and that company will be delegated to track every single penny of ARPA money, both on the education side, which in our case is about 140 million, and on the city side, government side, which is another 75 million. So it's so much money. I'm scared to death of it. And so we just decided to hire 2 extra attorneys to do nothing but ARPA contracts, and then the super project manager to do nothing but provide a full accounting of every project, every penny, every initiative, so that when they come in and audit us a year from now or 5 years from now, no matter who's here, there'll be, you know, a record and a file for every single thing that is involving with ARPA. So that's just our approach. It's probably a little bit overcautious, to be honest with you, particularly since a lot of you guys aren't seeing the volume of money that we're getting because of, you know, obvious reasons. But I can't tell you how careful you need to be, because there is just no wiggle room for debarment. If you use the money for something that is determined to be not in the scope of ARPA funding, then you will face some significant sanctions. There's not a lot, as I said, there is some gray. I mean, and that's the problem. There may be a little bit too much gray on what the money can be used and not used for. But I just remember going through what we went through in 2004 and 5, and I don't want to see any of you go through that. And I would just actually ask you to be really cautious, because it's always a negative reflection on your administration and or your city or town if they rule against you. So that's all I got. Thank you. Item agenda 6, municipal shared services update. John DeCarlo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Good to see everyone again, even virtually, after a couple months of being away. I know the hour is late, and I'll be brief in my remarks on an issue I've spoken about numerous times here in the last couple of months regarding municipal solid waste and recycling. The scheduled closing of Mira in July of next year really served as a shot across the bow, and state capacity for trash to energy is going to be decreasing. It's going to continue to do so in the coming years. Several of our CEOs requested we establish a working group to address what are anticipated to be major cost increases in municipal solid waste and recycling disposal. We know if we don't do something and have plans in place to work on, towns are going to be seeing mill rate increases as a result. We do all we can. We have to do all we can really to minimize the impact on our towns and the residents. It isn't just towns that contract with Mira that face the skyrocketing costs as well. Towns that contract elsewhere also understand it's just a matter of time till their disposal options are affected as well. In that regard, we had the first meeting of the MSW and Recycling Working Group last month. Multiple CEOs and numerous public works staff discussed the situation and options to explore. The group came to consensus that a two-prong approach is needed. One, organic waste diversion opportunities should be explored for the region. This is foodstuffs and yard waste, primarily foodstuffs. DEP is offering grant funds for pilot programs in organic diversion and potentially unit-based pricing programs from interested towns. DEP has also agreed to cover the cost of a consultant for our working group who's done similar work with the South Central Region Council of Governments, that's SCROG, in the past couple of years. Our consultant, Kristen Brown of Waste Zero, who's been before this board before, had numerous Zoom meetings with the lead disposal and recycling people for our towns in the last couple of weeks. We're hoping to have conducted meetings with every town within a couple more weeks. The information and data that's exchanged will help provide options to look at that we can work on for as many towns as possible and be supported by as many towns as possible in a regional solution. Things SCROG is moving forward with, like as I mentioned, foodstuffs, regional composting, organic separation, and unit-based pricing pilot programs. Two, and this is very important to some of our CEOs, that we recognize advocacy at the state level and the collaboration at the regional level is needed to what's really a statewide problem. Members agreed that CCM's Municipal Solid Waste Working Group should be the conduit for statewide advocacy to increase assistance for the municipalities in what is effectively an impending trash crisis. We've drafted outreach to CCM that we'll be sharing with the working group shortly. And I expect a version will be before this board next month for potential endorsement. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions, folks? Okay, John, we're letting you off easy today, buddy.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, sounds good. It's a real headache, this municipal solid waste stuff, but it's sad because I think it's going to equate to some enormous price increases per ton for all the cities and towns impacted, which is everybody. So,
Mayor, I just want to mention, John has received outreach from Capital Region Council governments as well. So the towns up there are interested in putting something together as well. So that we thought CCM was going to be the best venue for all of this.
yeah, this is a classic example of kicking the can down the road. And the further you kick the can down the road, the fewer people can handle this kind of volume of trash, quite frankly. And that's going to mean that it's going to cost a lot of money, and the competitive bidding becomes compromised because there's just not that many haulers that can handle this kind of stuff. So we'll see what happens, but it's something I would be pretty nervous about if I were all of you. Okay, let's go on to item agenda 7. We have our Region 5 folks with us, emergency management update. We have Joanna Rogowski and John Field.
Yeah, good morning. First of all, I just want to ask John Field, do you have any comments to begin with?
Yeah, real quick, Joanna, I'll just give a little quick update from Demis's perspective, Region 5. You're going to hear more on the long-term recovery. Obviously, we're monitoring the current status on COVID with these new variants and, the governor's executive orders and authority expiring at the end of the month. So obviously there's a lot of discussion going on with the legislators, and then we continue to try to reimburse, work through the reimbursement progress through public assistance. And then under our normal operations, there's a couple IDAs or PDAs, initial damage assessments or preliminary damage assessments due to these last couple of storms. I think the first one was on Ray, which I am not aware of too much happening in our Region 5 area. There was a few towns that had some issues, but Ida was a whole different story and obviously caused some pretty good flooding in multiple towns. So we're in the process of collecting that data to see if we meet the thresholds for federal assistance. But the governor has declared state of emergencies in both of those particular events. So we'll continue to work on that. Also, it's brought to light hazard mitigation availability. Right now, there's currently an opening for those that will be interested in applying for hazard mitigation projects. So I believe that ends the end of the calendar year, December 31st, just to express interest in applying for the hazard mitigation. Obviously, there's some requirements there in regards to, having an updated plan. And I know the COGs are helping multiple towns, in developing that plan and keeping it updated. And then we have, our Demis staff. Obviously, we're in the process of doing some hiring of new staff, especially the statewide emergency management director's position closed last week. So they're in the process of trying to fill a few of those managerial positions, as well as some of the emergency management, public safety issue, planners for Region 2 and such. So that's all I have, unless there's any questions from a Demis. Real quick emergency management update. Thank you, Joanna.
Okay, great. If there are no questions, I will move on to letter A, COVID response update. So we did have a meeting of our Region 5 Regional Emergency Steering Committee this past Wednesday, September 8th. And I just want to reiterate some of the things that Rick Dunn was mentioning when they're applying for funding. Health and Human Services and the workforce subgroups reporting that there really is housing difficulties, especially when people are trying to apply through the Unite CT, the landlord and rent assistance program. Childcare, it's been decimated. And that's definitely high on the radar of the experts who are working with those groups. And also transportation for the workforce. Public transportation is something that they are very, very much interested in. To that end, though, with the workforce, the Northwest Region Workforce Board is offering training and work regarding manufacturing. They set aside money for training from the CARES Act, and that's being utilized now. So that's good news on that front. As far as the ESF 14 FEMA Region 1, so what's happening is the 7-state region known as FEMA Region 1, they have a division called Interagency Recovery Coordination. And what they're doing is they're working with the state of Connecticut, the Office of the Governor, Department of Economic and Community Development, and DEMIS to solicit projects. And what they want to do is help match all the different federal agencies' funding programs with those projects. Now, I just want to mention that these projects do not have to be FEMA related, but they do need to touch upon economy, health and human services, and housing. Now, there is an online portal for submitting these projects. The deadline is October 7th. And I just want to offer that the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments, you could email me or call me. I can help you with actually submitting projects through that portal. And what's going to happen next is the state of Connecticut will be reviewing all those projects and forwarding them, prioritizing them and forwarding them to FEMA 1, to FEMA Region 1. So there's that. Moving on to the Regional Emergency Planning Team, Region 5. As we had earlier in the meeting, the Homeland Security Grant Program executing the grant for fiscal year 21. On top of that, there is a really great program that the Public Works Department, the Public Works Emergency Support Function is doing. They're putting together a municipal equipment inventory. And this is for response to a major debris or disaster like happened in May of 2018 with the downbursts and tornadoes. So that's a good program going on with that. Community Emergency Response Team, the next statewide meeting is on September 23rd. And I just want to put out a reminder that a lot of these local community emergency response teams can assist with your COVID activities, whether it be vaccination or testing and such, food distributions. Just keep them in mind because they're ready and willing and able to help. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Comments? We good?
Good.
Okay.
I have one item left on number 7, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
The NVCOG hazard mitigation plan update.
Yes,
So,
sir.
as John Field just mentioned a few minutes ago, hazard mitigation plans are required to be updated every 5 years to remain eligible for federal natural disaster mitigation funding programs. NVCOG has received FEMA funding to develop a regional plan that'll serve to update all 19 of your plans. Over the last year, NVCOG has worked with a consultant and municipal officials in all of your towns to review past plans and prepare an update that meets FEMA standards. So there have been several rounds of public and stakeholder engagement, including meetings and workshops. We did surveys and other outreach as well. Input was all incorporated into a regional plan and municipal annexes, and you can find those drafts on our website. The draft report and the annexes were finalized and submitted to DEMIS and FEMA in August. We expect approvals with some revisions later this fall. And once we do receive those approvals, we'll be working with all of your municipalities to get plans endorsed locally this winter. So, once those are approved, and I think you could probably, begin the application process for that funding since you have a largely complete plan. But once those are approved, you will be eligible for that funding. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that.
Any question, folks?
Yes, can we apply before the plans are approved or no?
If you're interested in applying, reach out to me and we can work with DEMIS and FEMA on that. But I think since you will probably have an approved plan by this winter, you may be able to.
Okay, thank you.
If I may comment on that, Mayor.
Sure, of course.
So yeah, right now, they are just, you're applying because you're interested in applying for the grant. So, and that's up until the end of the year. So if your updated plans are going to be completed by calendar year end, there's no reason why you cannot express interest in applying for that grant for next year.
I'll be right with you, okay?
That sounds good, John. Thank you. Any other questions, folks? Okay. Well, thank you, John. Thank you, Joanna. And thank you, Aaron. Appreciate your work on this. Okay, folks, moving along. Item agenda number 8, NV Planning Transportation Lot SIP. Karen.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to handle the next few items on lot SIP. Instead of bouncing back and forth, I'll just handle all 4 items.
Okay.
The first one is just a formal endorsement of e-vote that was we conducted during the summer on project in Beacon Falls, Beacon Valley Road. If you may remember, the costs increased on that project above the 25% threshold, so we needed to go out and get reimbursement by the board. And there were some questions about the reasons for that cost increase, and primarily it was because of after doing a more in-depth evaluation assessment of the pavement structure, it was determined that the town's original plan of doing reclamation would not meet the 20-year lifespan. And so they went from reclamation for the pavement structure to a full depth reconstruction. So again, we did do an e-vote, which is usually is an unusual action by us, but so we wanted to just bring it back to the board for a sort of a formal board vote. The recommendation would just to be formally endorse the NVCOG resolution accepting the cost increase.
Move, Chatfield. Second, done.
Mayor, you're muted.
Damn. Excuse me. All right, we have a motion. We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Okay, Mark, keep going.
Okay, the second item we wanted to just is more for discussion. We've been doing lots of projects since 2014, and mostly they're road type of projects, but more and more recently, towns are asking to include basically streetscape elements, granite curbing, concrete pavers, thermoplastic crosswalks, decorative lighting, things like that. And we generally support those to be included in a project, but the DOT doesn't have a clear guidance on whether these are participating items or not. And so in some cases, they will support including them in a project and fund it under lot SIP. Other times they give us an argument and we have to go back and forth. So we just want to bring it to the board and try to get, have you, the board, think about whether we should be continuing to consider streetscape complete streets elements as participating items. And that just gives us the direction to keep pushing these with the department. We've been finding that they're generally accepting of these elements when they're within the downtown area. That doesn't seem to be an issue, but some of the projects we've been getting are sort of the fringe area of downtown. And that's when we sort of have some discussion, shall we say, or arguments. So again, we just want to get direction from the board that whether you would think that no, these are legitimate transportation actions, they should be participating items and funded under the program. So it's just more for discussion and thought.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just weigh in on this one, we feel pretty strongly about this, that this is your decision. whether to include these elements in the lots of funds that are allocated to the region. And we have, as Mark said, we have fought for it. What I would like to do is this: if there are questions, obviously we'll answer them to the board, but we would like to next month advance a letter to the board for endorsement to go to the department, indicating that we want to affirm your authority to approve these projects at your discretion under the LOTSIP program and guidance. It's clearly permitted. It's just a question of staff deciding sometimes they want to consider it and sometimes they don't. And it seems pretty arbitrary. So we can leave this for further discussion next month, but what we'd like is really a letter to go to the department from the board.
And we did discuss this issue with the TTAC. This week we had a meeting, and again, the representatives present all felt that it was a good program, and it's good to keep these kinds of elements within the LOTSA. It really enhances the aesthetics of a road and really adds to the general benefit of the area.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you want a motion to put that on next month's agenda?
Sure.
I'll make it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Mark, what else do you want us to do for you today?
The next one is we received an application from the city of Ansonia for a new project to add to the program. It's complete streets improvements along State Street, which basically runs from Main Street at I guess that would be the north end of downtown up to North State Street. And this is actually one of the projects that sort of triggered our discussion, because this project includes rehabilitation of the road, but also includes some streetscape elements, improving the sidewalks, some decorative lighting, some enhanced crosswalks. And it serves an area that's right at the edge of the downtown. The YMCA is right there, and there's a couple of other higher activity, land uses is right there. So again, we reviewed this at the TTAC. They voted to recommend adding it to the program, so we're bringing it to the board for approval.
Don't move, Chatfield.
Hold on, don't move. All right, so move Chatfield. We got a second?
Second, done.
Thank you, Mayor Dunn. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
And the final item is just, we'd like to do a monthly overview of the program. As you can see from this table, since its inception, we have entertained 33 projects, and we've actually completed 13, and 7 additional ones are under construction now. So we've been pretty successful and very aggressive in getting projects out. So in the last 6 years, we have essentially 20 projects that we've completed. The total value of our program right now to date is 104 million. 26.5 million are represented by completed projects, another 27.5 million by ones that are currently under design. And we have another 5 that are in design and are likely to go either later this year or early spring of 22. So we are moving right along and really advancing projects. And as you can see from the chart here, again, this is one we've shown before, where the blue indicates total allocation of lots of funds, and the orange is the value of projects that we have programmed and have implemented. Again, we want to make sure that we're not in a deficit situation. And we're doing pretty good, but as you see in the later years, fiscal year 23 and 24, we're getting very close to a point where we think we may be over-programmed and underfunded, but we're not too worried because the schedules have a tendency to work themselves out. Plus, with the new transportation bill likely to be passed soon, there's a possibility that we may be getting additional money under the program. So it's, you know, we're still in good shape, and we're keeping track of it. And I can, you know, answer any questions about the program. And just as a reminder, you know, we do maintain a rolling solicitation, so we entertain any projects that, you know, the towns have, and, you know, we go out and review them. And with Kevin now on staff, you know, we're also willing to provide a little bit, he has some engineering design background, that we can help the town sort of, you know, put together some concept drawings and some, you know, concept applications.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, just Sheila was planning to speak to the issue. Apparently her microphone's not working, but obviously Ansonia has made the request. They support the project and they're looking for support of the rest of the board to add it to the schedule.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Sheila. Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Mark? Okay. Where are we? We're on other.
No, we have one more 8B. Just we want to introduce, we're starting to develop an active transportation plan. Rich Donovan is going to be handling that in our office, and he has just wants to talk about the process that he's going to be following, you know, through the start initiation of that project.
Sure, come on, Rich.
He is online, isn't he?
He is.
Rich Donovan.
Where did you go? He's there. Rich, you're speaking?
There you are, Rich. You must be muted because we can't hear you, brother.
He's not muted. We cannot hear him.
Yeah.
Well, I can go through it
How
in that case.
about now?
Oh, there you go. There we go.
Sorry about that. Yes, so thanks, Mark and Mayor O'Leary. I just wanted to do a real quick introduction to what we've done so far and what we're hoping to do. You know, so this started out as was going to be our first regional bicycle plan. And it's been expanded. It's going to include an update of the regional pedestrian plan that we published back in 2017, as well as it's going to take a look at other micromobility technologies and trends that might be emerging that we should be thinking about. So, you know, a couple of our really early goals on this. We want to make sure that we're focused on providing connections between the existing multi-use trails in the region, as well as our existing assets, you know, our downtown areas, our commercial areas. We want to be looking specifically at safety and making some recommendations around safety enhancements for pedestrians and cyclists. We will be looking for economic development opportunities related to having more people on our streets, as well as focusing on increasing mobility for those who either do not or cannot or choose not to have access to a car. And so, like I said, we're in the very early process of this right now. We just put together an initial scope of work that we're looking at internally here. But one of the next things that we will be doing is identifying a project advisory committee for this. We have a few non-municipal members now, but we are looking for some suggestions for members. So if there's anybody either on municipal staff or within your towns that you would like to see be on that project advisory committee, please let me know. In particular, we are looking for at least one, but maybe a couple representatives from local police departments to represent the law enforcement voice on it, as well as perhaps a member or two of the local Board of Education. So we'll send a memo out to the TTAC email list and you know, just share that information of what we're looking for PAC members. But that will be our next major step, is getting that advisory committee put together.
Okay, thanks, Rich. Anybody have any comments or questions for Rich? I think you got off easy, buddy.
So Mayor, we have item 9 left. I just point out, this is paying the piper in September for not having July and August meetings. We go through this every year.
Okay, item agenda 9A, sustainable CT update. Joanna.
Yeah, so this is not painful at all. So I just wanted to say this is the 4th year of the Sustainable CT program. And just to remind you, it's a voluntary municipal certification program for towns to get credit for their sustainable practices and learn from other towns about how they're doing it and how to do it better. So this is the 4th year. We had 2 fellows from the Sustainable CT program, Adrian Hook from Derby and Lauren Pawlowski from Shelton. They were very helpful. They were awesome. And one of the great things is Ansonia is now registered on the Sustainable CT program. On top of that, we still have our great bronze awardees, Cheshire, Waterbury, and Woodbury, and our shining silver star of Bristol. Thank you all for continuing to do great work. And as a continuation, both Cheshire and Waterbury will be applying for silver certification in April 2022. And to that end, with Waterbury, our NVCOG staff person, Christine O'Neill, will be supporting the Waterbury team toward their silver certification. So thank you all.
Well, thank you, Joanna and Mayor Ellen. We're in hot pursuit of you. We're a silver status. Just want you to know. Yeah. Next, we have the regional sustainability plan update. Christine O'Neill.
Hi there. I will be as brief as possible. Thank you so much for your time. I'd like to talk about a document that has actually been in the works since fall of 2019. If you could go to the next slide, Rich. So it was funded through our regional service grant. Oh, text is cut off there. I apologize. So yeah, we began in fall of 2019, and we have been very, very lucky to have the assistance of the Sustainable CT Fellows working on this document. It was largely, it's been 100% in-house, created by staff with the support from the fellows. And the reason I'm giving you an update today is because our first drafts of the chapters are now substantially complete. We're moving on to the formatting and revising phases, and we wanted to remind you of this awesome document we're working on. So what is this plan going to help you do? How is it going to serve your community? We're looking at targeted, action-oriented projects that your community can take to become more sustainable. So it's going to help inform discussions. It's going to help prioritize budgets. It's also really helpful, of course, when you're writing a grant, you always want to show conformity to a larger plan. So hopefully it will help you secure funds. And it puts everyone in the region on the same page in terms of a sustainability plan. We can actually skip this slide. This was just a little bit about what our inspiration was and how we built it. Just because sustainability is one of those really broad words, I thought it would be good to kind of explain how we have worked off this working definition of sustainability. For the purposes of the plan, we defined it as the responsible and equitable use of resources to meet the needs of the current generation while preserving and enhancing the well-being of future generations. That's working, it could change. And Rich, if you could go to the next. And so what does that mean for municipalities? Well, here are the ways we broke that down. Our chapters are, as you can see there, built environment, natural environment, economy, climate change, transportation, and energy smart buildings. And before I finish up here, I just wanted to give you one example of what it will look like. So one of our projects is to design public buildings with daylighting and passive solar to conserve energy. And one of the really exciting parts of this plan is that it is all about celebrating the amazing sustainable projects that already exist in our region. So here we're celebrating Seymour's really incredible elementary school that has beautiful architecture and incorporates great energy conservation principles with all the windows. If you are thinking, wow, I wish I could be up on that slide right now, that's great. Hold on to that feeling and send me an email, because I'll be soliciting next week to see if everyone can respond and give us all our great sustainable projects going on in the region so we can celebrate you in the plan. And if you could just go to the next slide, Rich. That's my contact information. So look out for that email next week. We want to celebrate you in our plan, and we hope that in spring of 2022, we'll have something wonderful to present to you that you'll be very excited to review and adopt. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Christine, for that very enthusiastic presentation. Very cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Christine? Okay, I guess we'll move on to the deep recreation trails grant, which is Aaron's job.
Thank you, Mayor. I get to be first and last on the agenda today, so pretty nice. So Deep Recreational Trails Grant was announced last month. I sent you all out a memo. The funding can be used for trail planning, construction, or improvements. There's $3 million total statewide available, but there is a huge backlog of projects because there has not been a round in several years, so it's bound to be very competitive. For an idea of grant size, most projects in the last several rounds were under $300,000. COG staff can help with applications, and we're also looking to potential for regional applications as well. So let us know if you have any ideas. The deadline for that is November 1st. Moving on to the next item. So there's two actual deep open space grant opportunities right now. One is the Open Space and Watershed Acquisition Program, which is for the purchase of open space or drinking water watershed land. There's a 25 to 35% match depending on the situation. And there's also an Urban Green and Community Gardens Grant Program, which is focused on urban park or community garden development or improvements. And that one's for distressed or targeted investment communities only. And for that, there's a 50% match. And for both of those open space grant programs, there's a September 30th deadline. And again, we can assist with support letters or assistance with the grant itself. And then the very last thing I have is we are working on a fall composter and rain barrel sale, following up on our very successful spring sale. And we're hoping to have an announcement soon about a date and location. So stay tuned.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Aaron? Okay, very cool. Moving on. Item agenda 10, other. Anybody have anything they'd like to talk about?
Mayor, Lenny and Bethlehem, because we expect some increased traffic this weekend for the fair. So what we decided to do was to have a vaccine clinic in front of Town Hall from 10 to 5, both Saturday and Sunday. And apparently they're going to be handing out gift cards, as well as having all 3 vaccines available if someone has a preference for some. So if you know anybody that needs one, stop by on your way to the fair. The vaccine is free and it won't take you but a couple minutes.
Oh, that's awesome, Lenny. Thank you. Good to know. Good to know for everybody. Okay, what else, folks? Anything else?
No.
Well,
I have something. A little more personal. Let Mayor Dunn go first. He was yellow before I was.
Okay, Mayor Dunn.
No, I'm good. Go ahead. I don't have any.
This is a personal for me. I believe this is about my 500th COG meeting since November of '77, which that includes the 3 years I was chairman and other things I've done. I just think that's a pretty cool accomplishment myself.
Well, we think it's very cool too, Mayor Bob. I mean, you're like so senior, like you make us look like children.
As I'm looking around the screen, I might be the oldest one here too, even though I don't look it. I'm closer to 80 than I am 70, so I'll just leave it at that.
You're not the only one.
Okay.
Because you have easy elections.
No, not this one.
Well, let me say, we appreciate that, Mayor Bob, and I appreciate all of you on the call today. I say it all the time. I think it's the best COG in the state by far, and appreciate everybody's respect for one another, and the collaboration is to the benefit not only of our individual towns but to ourselves personally. So, thank you all. And if we don't have anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, done.
Second, Ed Moan. Thanks, Ed. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I hope you all enjoy it. The weather's supposed to be beautiful all weekend. I hope you have a great, safe weekend. And as Mayor Bob pointed out, let's not forget our friends in 9/11. Okay? Thanks, everybody.
You got it.